Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Deepa Robbins from Designs by D, and today I have a 3D panel card for you, and this one is a Christmas card in honor of Christmas in July. So let's have a look at this one. This one basically uses some nice golds, reds, and greens, very indicative of Christmas, and I've used that 3D panel technique that I showed you in a previous video. And this is a full inside and out video, so I'm showing you both the outside and the inside of the card, and I'll show you how I put all of this together. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to be using this Concord and 9th Blooms fill-in stamp set. It has this big background and all these little elements to use to fill in that background, the little flowers that it has there, and then these few sentiments with the stamp set. Now, I've also got the dies that come with this stamp set, and I actually didn't buy these together. I got them separately, so I'm excited to use them together. So first of all, I'm going to stamp my background, and I'll be using the Altenew Rose Gold embossing powder to do that. It doesn't have too much of a rose color, but it has a nice gold color to it, so I thought it would work well with this Christmas card. As you can see, this is actually the second time that I've stamped this out because you have to get the pressure just so. And so I would really recommend using this stamp set with a stamp positioner. Now, as you can see, there's that really nice gold sheen that you get. This embossing powder is really good for that. Now, here's the little element, or little flower element that you can use to stamp in the center. And I'm going to be doing heat embossing again here. So I'll just use my Versamark and I'll sort of stamp all over. As you can see, it's pretty easy to line up how this flower should go in the center. And it's pretty forgiving in that even if you don't stamp it the right way, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be that noticeable. So this time I'm going to be using Ranger embossing powder, and this one's the liquid platinum. Now this is really cool because it's actually a silver platinum type color, but it's got that element of gold and silver, so it works well in a background like this where it's mainly gold. So there you have that final result. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off that extra edge there, and then all the little edges here so that I get the right size that I want without any white little borders on the edges. And here I'm going to be creating the 3D panels. So I'm going to measure about 1 inch 4 times here. So I'm going to put 4 marks on here, and I'm going to end up with 5 pieces or 5 panels. And as you notice, I'm marking 2 in from one edge and 2 in from the other edge, just so that if my center panel is not 1 inch entirely, it's not going to look weird because your center panel will just stand out as being different and it'll look symmetrical. So there I have it all cut up with my guillotine cutter, which I find is what works best for this. And here I'm going to adjust the edges, the tops and bottoms. So I'm going to cut about 1/2 inch on the top and bottom of the 2 outer panels. So then I'm going to create a 1/4 inch cut on the top and bottom of the second innermost outer panels, if that makes any sense. So I basically have those laid out on the screen here where they would fit on the card. So what you're going to end up is having like a graduated look where your center panel is the longest. Now I'm going to use this Darice Coordinations Glitter Silk cardstock in red. This is really nice glitter cardstock. And I'll use this Be Creative tape, double-sided tape, to adhere that to the card base. Now the card base is the typical that I always use. It's the Hammermill 100-pound printer paper, which is really not printer paper. It's just really thick, which makes a good card base. So I'll go ahead and adhere the glitter paper to the front there. Well, it looks so nice on its own. I just really like that glitter paper. You can get this on Amazon and it's really not that expensive. Okay, so the next step is to adhere all my panels. So what I'm doing here is loading up the center panel with 2 layers of foam tape. This one is going to stick out the most. So I'm making sure that I'm lining up my pattern and placing it just in the center there. I'm just eyeballing it, I'm not measuring. And then for the panel that's 1 out from the center, I'm only putting 1 layer of foam tape. Once again, I'm just eyeballing it, I'm not measuring anything, and I'm leaving a little bit of gap between the panels so you can see that red glitter cardstock in between, which is what I didn't do on my past videos. Now this last piece on the edge, that one is flush to the card, so that one I just used the Be Creative double-sided tape. And here I'll follow the same pattern working towards the right. So this one only has one layer of foam tape. And then the next panel will just have the double-sided tape so that it's flush to the card base. So this is what you end up with. And it's really cool because it looks like one of those canvas photograph panel photos that you could kind of put on your wall at home. And I like that it's got the spaces in between it so you can see that glitter cardstock. So now I'm going to take the dies, and this is the flower portion of it, which in this case I'm sort of using as like a poinsettia, even though it's not one. And then they also give you this little leaf frond with this set. So I'm going to die cut both of these. And I've got a few of them here. So I cut out 3 of the fronds and 1 of the flower. And now what I'm going to do is give it some color. So I'm going to start with the Altenew Crimson, which is a really nice bright red, but it's not too bright. It's still got that deep reddish color, which is indicative of those poinsettias. And now I'm going to use the actual the little stamps that you can use to build up your flower look. And I'll use Altenew Velvet ink here. Now this is in the same line as the crimson ink, so it's just a bit darker. So it'll show up here. And I'll just turn my acrylic block around just to get it to line up. As you can see, it's pretty simple to line up. And it's kind of stuck there, so I'm just going to use my tweezers to take it off. And then I also want to stamp this little bit in the center to give it a bit more interest. Now there are other different little images that you can put on the flower and use to make it have different looks, which is really cool and one of the good things that I like about the set. So the fronds, I'm going to be using Altenew Evergreen to color them in. I'm being lazy here. I'm just putting my ink pad straight on the die cut. You could have maybe colored in a piece of paper, like blended it in and then cut it off. That's a good way to save your ink. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Simon Says Stamp Seasons Greetings die. I got this a while back but didn't use it, so I'm excited to use it here. And I die cut it out a few times. So I've got about 3 layers of cardstock here. I've separated them all, and I want to just highlight this little tool here. This is the Spellbinders Craft Tool in 1. It's really cool, and you can use it for a bunch of different things. Here's the little pick, and as you can see, I'm using it to get out all those little pieces of cardstock there. So I'll go ahead and move on and attach each of those die cuts together to create more of a thicker die cut or sentiment there. This also makes it easier when positioning it on your card. It makes it nice and thick so that it has a bit more dimension and so that it's more sturdy. So yeah, I usually flatten it out with my acrylic block. And you can see the white pieces of glue, but they do dry clear. So here I'll just position it on my card. And the great thing about die cuts is because the paper is pretty thin, even though I've stacked these up, you can sort of move them in any which way that you want them to sit. So I'm just sort of choosing this arched look here because what I'm going to do is put a little focal point in the center. Another thing, or a little trick I want to show you here, because I'm too lazy to keep track of all the little dots for the eyes in greetings, and also the comma that's between the N and the S in seasons. So I'll show you how I get those on there without keeping all those tiny little die cuts. But first, here I'm adding that little flower that I made and the leaf fronds, and I'm putting it all on there with some Tombow multi-purpose mono glue. And there you go. That's what it looks like, and I'm just going to jazz it up a bit here. So here's Ranger's Glossy Accents. I have this bottle. I've had it for such a long time, and it lasts you a long while. I love the Glossy Accents because once you get it on there, it gives it such a nice sheen. Now here I've sort of skipped forward, and I've put it all over the flower as well as the sentiment. and the leaf fronds. And now I'm just going to add that little jewel in the center. Now here's my little trick. So this is the Nuvo Ebony Black Crystal Drops, and I'm just going to create the eye with that, and then also the little comma between N and S. So this is a great way to use your Nuvo drops in order to help save your sentiments, especially if you're one of those people who doesn't keep track of all the tiny little pieces of your die cuts. And there you go. That's the front. Now I'm going to move on and show you how I decorated the inside. So I just went at it. I used the flower and the frond dies to just cut out a whole bunch of die cuts here. And once again, I'm showing you this Spellbinders tool-in-one. It has this cool little rotary brush thing at the end, and also your pick. So the pick is great for getting out your die cuts, just like I'm showing you here. And then that rotary brush is great for very intricate dies where you have tons of little pieces of cardstock that you need to get out. You just sort of brush it over the top and they all just easily come out. It's so great, and I definitely recommend getting this. So I'm going to do the same thing I did for that flower on the front. I'm just going to go ahead, use my ink pad in Crimson to color that in, and then add these little elements with the Velvet Altenew ink. And then I did the exact same thing with the fronds. I just put my ink pad to the paper to color that in Altenew Evergreen. So I used all the same colors as the flowers on the front. And that's how I'm going to tie in the front to the inside. So here I have a bit of fun. And what I'm going to do is sort of create a border at the bottom and the top of my cards with all of these little flowers and fronds. So I'm just using my Tombow mono glue. Once again, it's a glue that doesn't adhere right away. It gives you a bit of wiggle room so I can sort of place my fronds behind the petals and things like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and place those flowers and fronds on along the bottom in order in which it's a bit scattered. So as you notice, I'm not really lining up all the flowers in the same position. I sort of turn it a bit here and there so that it looks a bit more varied, and so it's not too so it looks a bit more natural. I'm trying to think of a word and I can't think of it. Anyways, so there you go. And what I'm going to do now is cut off all the edges because I don't want those on there. I want my card to sit nice and flat if you stand it up. And that's the kind of look that you get. Now I went ahead and did that again on the top. So this is now the top of that card. And I'm actually just going to add another little flower just in the top corner for a bit of interest, since the inside of the card is a bit more plain. So I popped up that one flower with a 3D foam square. And that's the final product I got. Now I still have to cut off the edges at the top there, but I'm not really going to show you that. Anyways, I want to show you this Ranger Inkssentials water-based stamp cleaner. I really love it, and I want to show you that it's super cool. You can spray it on your hands to get any of the ink off and just wipe it off. And it's really nice because it has a bubble gum smell. So it's not as disgusting smelling as some of the other stamp cleaners out there, and I really, really do like it. So I definitely do recommend that one. So now I'm going to move on with my card. Here's the die cuts with a view gold metallic cardstock. I got this in a pack, and what I'm doing here is I'm just cutting some thin little strips out of it. They're 1/8 of an inch in size. And now I'm going to use this Altenew Beautiful Inside stamp set. I've shown this before many times. It has tons of cool stamp sets, sentiments, including Christmas ones that you can use on the insides of your cards. So as usual, I'm too lazy to line this up in my MISTI. So I'm going to go ahead and use an acrylic block and some VersaFine Vintage Sepia. I figured that goes nicely with the Christmas theme because it's more of a brown tone, and I don't really have any browns in my poinsettia. So I thought I'd just add that in there. So I'm just going to eyeball it, and of course it's off to the sides. See, it's a bit more to the left than it should be. And as I've shown you before, that's very easily fixed. All you have to do is add some element to the right of it so that it looks more center. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm adding some more of those leaf fronds and the flower. So I'll 3D foam that one on there again. And there you go. Looks centered. Looks like I meant to do it. Definitely a cool trick to use. So now I'll go ahead and move on and bring out that glossy accents again. So I'm going to admit I kind of went hog wild with the glossy accents on this card. I just really like that glossy look that you get from it. So I decided I was going to take it and cover all of these flowers, all of the fronds with the glossy accents. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. It's going to take me quite a while to do that, so I won't show you all of it. But I do want to show you that using the glossy accents does give you a good adhesive. It works as an adhesive as well as giving you that glossy look. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to add that little jewel to the center of the flower like I've done before in the front. So as I said, this acts as the adhesive to attach that gem. And that's the cool look you get. As you notice, my flowers are missing centers. So I'm going to use the Nuvo Ebony Black Crystal Jewel Drops again. And I'm just going to make tiny little dots in the centers to create the center of my flowers. I think my initial thought was to add some more of those gems, but I didn't want to sort of take away from that one flower in the corner there. So I thought I'd add the black. And then it also kind of sort of like meshes the brown sepia color from the sentiment with the rest of the inside of the card. So I went ahead and did that. I'm going to go ahead and do that on the other side, but before I do that, I'm going to use that thin strip of gold cardstock that I cut earlier, and I'm just going to attach it to the edge here. Now, once again, because I have all of that glossy accents on there, it acts as an adhesive. So I can just sort of lay my strip over top and carefully position it. Sorry, I'm a bit off screen here, but I'm just positioning it right up against the edge and pressing it down just a little into that glossy accent so that I know that it's adhered. And you could wait till afterwards, but I was too impatient and I cut off very carefully the edges. And there you go. So here's what it looks like. I think that looks really nice for a card inside. And I really like the glossiness. It might be a little too much for a card inside, but hey, I had to do it. So there's the front of the card and there's the inside. And as you can see, I've gone ahead and I've completed all that glossy accenting on the top and the bottom. And there you have it. This is the final card that you end up with. Super cool. Love all that gloss. So if you like this video, go ahead and press the like button below. Let me know that you liked it. And if you have a chance, please check out my blog. It's designsbyd.blogspot.com. And I have a ton more projects on there that you can take a look at, some of which I don't have videos for. Furthermore, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll definitely have a bunch more of these to show you inside and out of cards. And I also have a couple videos here that you might want to click on and take a look at too. So that's all I have for you today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.